Hotel history is created for adult audiences. Content may not be suitable for all listeners. Discretion is advised. You're listening to Hotel History. We take you with us through the sordid history and scandals of some of the world's most famous and infamous hotels. I'm Dieta.
And I'm Yael. Let's get started. Today, our episode is exciting, and it continues on to our literary month, right? Is the month still going on?
It has not been a month since we last released an episode, I think. So, yes.
Well, our literary theme,
There you go.
because we did a book giveaway, and there was a book day. Am I mistaken?
We gave away books for World Book Day on April 23rd. So if you follow us on Instagram, hopefully you entered that.
Yeah, that was fun. I'm really excited about the books that we gave away.
Yeah, I really want to read them. It was actually really hard to give them away because I wanted to read them so bad.
I haven't read them yet. I'm going to read them. But yeah, we are continuing on this theme. And the hotel that we're covering is the Algonquin Hotel in New York City. It has a lot of history when it comes to writers and intellects and just the literary, that's not the word. Literati is the rapper that raps about Dorothy Parker. No, the I can't say it. Literati circle. We're going to go over a lot of stuff. Don't worry. It's going to be interesting.
Not to be confused with the Illuminati, guys. Like, we're not saying
Oh,
that
I
these
did
people
confuse
were
that when I was younger. People would be like,
separate things.
I don't think that circle controls anything.
No.
But if anyone's familiar with the Algonquin Hotel, it is in New York. It's actually right near Times Square on 44th Street. And it's the oldest running hotel in New York City. Did you know this?
I did not.
Yeah. I did not. I don't know why, but I don't believe it. I know that sounds weird, but it makes sense because the guy who bought the hotel or the land bought it in 1901 and then opened in 1902.
Yeah.
And it was also supposed to be apartments, then turned into hotels. That happens a lot.
It does happen a lot.
That's why we have a housing shortage.
Yeah, so this one even predates the original plaza.
Not by too many
Right?
years, but yeah, because the plaza was 1907.
Yeah.
But I guess technically it's older, but come on. It's not that much.
What year was the original plaza built before they tore it down and built the current plaza?
Oh, I think it was in 1903.
That's what I'm thinking too. Yeah, so it even like predates the original plaza.
And that area was just starting to be built up more, and hotels were popping up. And
yeah, if you look at photos from this time, it's crazy the difference between whenever it was just stable land and then like within 50 years it looks like a bustling New York street with gigantic, Edwardian buildings. And the difference 50 years can make is crazy.
yeah, and I found out today when I was doing more research, I was listening to a podcast, and the podcast was called the Insider Travel Report Podcast, and the guy was interviewing the current general manager of the hotel, and he was talking about how the hotel is placed on something called Club Row, which is where all the college, like if you graduated Harvard or Penn or all these places, they have not secret clubs, but exclusive clubs on this block. And it's like where all the wealthy people lived. It's even though it's close to the Times Square and we all think of Times Square as like not great, but it's really fancy.
Yeah, it's got the New York Yacht Club, the Harvard Club, the Bar Association, and then one of the former locations of the New Yorker is on that same street. And then also the Hippodrome, which was the most massive theater that Broadway ever had, sat across the street until it was demolished in 1939.
Why would they do that?
I don't know.
I don't even know what's there now. I was just at the Algonquin.
The Gonk,
The
as
Gonk?
they say.
Is that what they call it?
Yeah.
Can we call it the
The
Gonk?
Gonk, yeah.
It sounds gross.
It does. I don't like that.
I was just at the Gonk, and I was so focused on the Gonk and not what's across the street. It is really cute. It's like, although I just assumed it like took over the whole block, but it doesn't. It's just really tall. I think it's 12 stories. And 12 stories.
Yeah.
It has 174 guest rooms. I think they updated it. I think it's 181 guest rooms and 24 suites.
Ooh.
Based on this podcast I listened to. And they did a couple renovations to it. But to go back, the guy who bought it, or I guess did he buy it or he bought the land and he built it? So he had this idea for it. His name was Albert T. Foster.
Mm-hmm.
And his wife, Ann Stetson Foster. This guy, Albert, and his wife owned it, built it. They were the shortest. They owned the hotel the shortest amount from all the other owners. And they originally wanted to name it the Puritan, I believe, because they had a company called the Puritan Company or something.
Yes, luckily their manager, Frank Case, convinced them to name it the Algonquin. Which makes sense now because they had a hotel nearby called the Hotel Iroquois, so that makes sense.
I think I read that, or I heard that he wanted to name it the Algonquin for the land that it was originally on. Mm-hmm. But then I heard someone's like, that's a little obnoxious. Like, thank you for letting us steal this land and building a fancy hotel. We're respecting the natives by not letting you in. Right. Thank you.
Yeah. Or probably properly paying you for said land. But
he didn't own it very long, and he was a gambler, I believe, and he I guess he just gave it to Frank Case, who eventually owned it.
I think Frank Case bought it. I don't think
he bought it.
Owned it. Yeah.
No, he didn't give it. He was running it and then he bought it. Yeah. But what happened to this guy? What happened to Foster? He just kind of was like, this isn't for me.
Well, not long after the Algonquin opened, his wife left him and sued him for ownership of the hotel.
Oh.
And then a judge appointed Frank Case as one of the receivers to manage the property for the couple. And then he bought the hotel and continued to run it until he died.
Okay, so he had his own personal drama, and then Frank Case was like, I got you. I got this. He really loved the hotel, Frank Case. And he also wrote, I believe, a cookbook based on the food served at the Algonquin.
Oh, yeah, I saw the photo of that.
I think it's called like Feeding the Lion, or something. I thought there would be like, copies of this book, assuming it's just a book, but it's actually really expensive and it's rare.
Oh, it's probably been out of print for a long time.
Yeah, but they shouldn't put it back in print. I want to read that. I couldn't find anything on it. I couldn't find anything from inside. So Frank Case, obviously the first general manager, he runs it. He buys it and he runs it until his death in 1946.
Oh, I love this. I'm always obsessed with how much hotel rooms used to cost. When it first opened, single rooms cost $2 a night, while larger 3-bedrooms cost $10. So this was still a really nice, expensive place, even from the very beginning.
Yeah, that was a lot for back then.
That was a lot.
That was I mean, it was in a nice neighborhood. Not always, because Times Square got really seedy. So that I'm surprised it lasted that long to be associated with like wealthier people, just because of its location. You would think like the hookers would come. The hookers would come and change everything. I wonder how it lasted throughout the 70s.
We'll see. We'll get there.
In 1919, something pretty important happened at the hotel, and it kind of put the hotel on the map. But a lot of well-known writers, critics, playwrights would come eat lunch there, and they kind of made a little famous, I guess, group. How would you describe it?
Yeah. Kind of like their own little inside club that somehow the entire city and then further on the entire country ends up knowing about because they become so famous that they have caricatures done and in magazines, and it becomes one of the most famous literary groups that
I think
has
ever
existed. Yeah.
I think nothing has replaced, and what we're talking about is the Algonquin Round Table. Nothing has replaced that. I don't think there's been a modern day. Has there? Am I forgetting something really obvious? But I know writers would hang out in different places, and at this time, this is the New York City writing scene, and then in France there was also and sometimes there would be overlap because people would go back and forth. But these people, what happened was, I guess it was a couple of writers, they started hanging out and it became a thing, and they became so popular that they had to separate them because people would come and gawk at them. And I think the manager and owner was like, well, we need people to come and actually, whatever. And so they kept a rope around their table. Eventually they moved to like a different room. There's like a more to it. But now they designate the round table at the lobby of the hotel, and they have little rope hanging from the top to represent the rope that they used. It's kind of weird if you don't know the story, because when I first went in there, I'm like, why is there rope? It's just random.
Yeah, so it started in the summer of 1919, the best anyone can tell. They're pretty sure they've pinned it down to the start of the group happening to when a group of these friends came for a welcome home party. So in June, they wanted to throw their friend Alec Woolcott, who was a drama critic for the New York Times, a welcome home gathering because he's back from World War I. And among his friends were newspapermen Franklin P. Adams, Haywood Brown, George S. Kaufman, Mark Connolly, and Deems Taylor, and then actresses Peggy Wood and Margalo Gilmore. Is that right? Margalo?
Yeah.
I think Margalo.
You know how the
better.
names back then.
Margalo Gilmore, along with magazine writer Margaret Leach and publicist John Peter Tuhey and William Murray. Toohey. Dorothy Parker. Also, she was a drama critic at Vanity Fair at the time, working alongside Robert Benchley, who was managing editor of Vanity Fair, and Robert E. Sherwood, a staff writer at Vanity Fair. So, nobody like super famous yet, but all, working writers with.
But they do. There's a couple of famous people that come in and out of the circle, like
Groucho
Marx.
Over time. But right at the start, they're all basically just getting
is it Groucho
started.
Marx or Harpo Marx?
Harpo. Yeah.
Groucho was the other guy.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm mixing up my Marx brother. It was Harpo Marx, and then also James Thurber came, which he's a famous author, playwright person. I'm not. They all did so many things, especially at the time. All writers.
All of these people are invited for the party, and the part that I love about this is two of the guys, Mark Connolly, I believe, was one of them, and maybe Haywood Brown. I can't remember who the other one was. Whenever they were preparing for this party, they sent out invitations to all of their friends, misspelling Woolcott's name as many different ways as they could think of. So it's spelled WOOLLCOTT, and he was really concerned about his name being spelled correctly. Like, he had a rhyme about it. It was 3 O's, 2 L's, 2 T's, if you please.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he was like really, really anal about the spelling of his name. So they misspelled it in as many different ways as they possibly could and sent it out to all of their friends, and then had a big banner made with it.
With the misspelling. I love that.
Yeah. So this is the type of friends that we're talking about, who absolutely take great pleasure in just bringing each other down to size.
He was really funny. They called him Alec or Alex because his full name is Alexander, right?
Yeah.
This guy who was so precise about his spelling and grammar, I guess. But he was so harsh with his criticisms in the New York Times that he was banned to go to some Broadway shows because they didn't want to hear it. They were like, no. And a lot of the group is known for that. They called them the Vicious Circle for a reason. But it's funny, they definitely poked fun at him because they're like, Do
you think he ever tried to go incognito? Like tried to sneak himself in so he could see?
Probably. I would love. So a lot of them were really harsh with their criticisms and, with, reviewing shows and this and that. But instead of taking it, I guess there wasn't enough competition, so they were banning people. But instead of taking it with pride, because if they always are so harsh, and they finally give you a good review, you can be like, we even impressed Alexander Woollcott and Dorothy Parker.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, theater was huge in New York at this time, even bigger than it is now. And they didn't have radio and TV and movies and all of that competing. Like, theater was it. Theater was the nightlife.
That and the turnout of newspapers. Mm-hmm. So they were writing constantly. They needed to be writing. They had different newspapers for morning, noon, and night. Yeah. So they were,
they needed content.
They basically needed they were the TikTokers of their time. And they also, I think, were the people everyone listened to when it came to going or, Broadway shows, books. I mean, they were the critics. Mm-hmm. So they set the tone for the rest of the country. They were it. And they knew they were it. And they knew they were the shit. So they can be so bitchy and mean.
Yeah.
Eventually, it didn't last forever. But I also want to mention one thing about the hotel, which is very ahead of its time. It is the first hotel to allow unaccompanied women into their hotel, like to book a room or to get lunch or drinks. And, at that time, they had women doing anything by themselves. It's like a big thing. And I believe someone else, a wife of one of the writers, Ruth Hale, she was also a big feminist. She didn't change her last name, when she got married. And she got a passport. She was the first woman to get a passport with her maiden name as a married woman.
Wow.
I believe that's how the story goes. It's really crazy. I want to go more into the round table, but just to give people an idea of the significance of the hotel and who goes there, it's like, it was the place, and it still is the place that Broadway stars go, jazz musicians go, celebrities hang out. Lou Reed used to hang out at the bar and just like order things. Elvis Costello would go there and like randomly perform. William Faulkner went there and wrote some things. Maya Angelou, Norman Mailer, and of course, the New Yorker started at the Algonquin by Harold Ross.
Yeah, he actually created the New Yorker after he won a handsome amount of money in a poker game against other Round Table members. That's how he financed.
Wow, that's a smart way to do it. New
Yorker. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and My Fair Lady was written at the Algonquin.
Mm-hmm. Oh, also Arthur Miller stayed there and during All My Sons.
Oh, okay. And was that before or after he was mean to Marilyn Monroe?
I believe. I think before. Wait. Okay. It's hard to know because he was mean to her for quite a bit of time. I am not positive.
Yeah, maybe.
But I think before. And Ella Fitzgerald also would stay there. Marilyn Monroe stayed there.
Yeah, I'm sure all the jazz musicians, because Harlem isn't that far away. And then if you go and you take a train, you're, there. I mean, probably every single person stayed there. It's just one of those institutions where it sounds like the cool people would stay there. I know it's fancy, but it has a beatnik. It's like where you want to go to have a deep conversation.
Yeah, it's intellectual.
Yeah, and another fact, that the general manager now, his name is Willis Langhad. He used to be the chef at the Plaza Hotel. And I think at the Ritz, he said, and he worked at the MoMA, and he has a very interesting story. So shout out to him. It's cool to hear that someone had such a long history in hotels.
Yeah.
And really nice hotels, especially in New York. And is now leading one of the best or the most historic hotels in New York.
So I love that the Round Table had like multiple names because everybody else would call them the Round Table because that's what they were sitting at. But they called themselves the Vicious Circle. And then before they really got these two names going, they also would call their lunches board meetings, and they'd call themselves the board. And so the manager, Frank Case, actually gave them like their own devoted waiter since they were coming 6 days a week for these luncheons. And his name was Luigi. So they also called it the Luigi board.
That's really cute.
Cute.
Imagine being the waiter to that table. I'd be excited and terrified at the same time. But you have to be nice because that man is giving you food.
Yeah.
And I believe Frank Case gave them free celery sticks and
olives and popovers.
And popovers, yeah.
So he would give them little bits because he knew most of them like weren't making a ton of money.
Yeah, I think there was a reputation of taking it easy on writers. And I don't know if it's still today. I know that they do have musical nights there. They used to have covers before the pandemic, and now after they don't. I think for a lot of reasons. But like, come on. It's a hotel. You really going to charge someone a cover, especially if you're representing the struggling artists of New York? That's so not cool. So I'm glad they're not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
But also, John Barrymore, the old Drew Barrymore's like great grandfather.
Yeah.
So he used to go there too, and he had quite a lot of influence on this hotel. He apparently put the Blue Bar, which is the bar in the lobby, on the map, or like had influence of the name. And a little known fact about the hotel: they have a designated cat named Hamlet. And they've had a cat since the 1920s. And the story goes that the cat just wandered in there and, he just became a part of the hotel. And to bring it back to John Barrymore, he's the one that suggested to change the name. It used to be Rusty, and then it turned into Hamlet. So now all the male cats are called Hamlet and the female cats are called Matilda. But this man was like, you're going to change the name of your cat from now on. And that's power.
Seriously. It says here also that he convinced the manager to place blue gels over the lights in the bar because one looks more attractive under blue lighting. And that's how it got its name, the Blue Bar.
Is that true?
That is so not true, dude. We need pink gels.
Yeah,
pink gel lighting.
Gels, yeah.
John Barrymore.
Well, he probably looked good on any lighting. Not everyone can look good like you, Barrymore.
Just put me under bathroom lighting. Why don't you? Jeez.
Maybe you know what? Maybe he just wanted other people not to look good.
Maybe. So there were roughly 24 members of the Round Table, give or take. It fluctuated over the week and over the years. Some people came, when they were in town or when they weren't super busy working. But some of the founding members were Franklin P. Adams, who was one of the more well-known and financially okay members because he had a really popular newspaper column at the time. And people actually, all of the Round Table members would try to write something good enough to actually be featured in his column. And it was considered like a really big deal if you got featured in his column. And every year he would give an award to whoever was featured the most.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, he was such a good manager
of
this little round table. Good job, guys. Who's the employee of the month?
Yeah, and he was one of the older members too. So he was kind of the father of the Round Table.
I'm sure they each had their personality and character placed in that little group. Yeah. Everyone knew who to go to for advice, and everyone knew who to go to like party.
Yeah.
Someone, I think the manager, again, I'm going to go back to that, but he described the Algonquin as quiet debauchery. And I kind of love that.
Yeah.
It's really true. Also would like to mention that the Algonquin is now owned by the Marriott Hotel chain.
Oh,
But it's still a boutique hotel, and they
yeah.
basically have all the freedom to be creative, and like you don't go in there and think I'm at a Marriott.
Right. Right. Another founding member was Haywood Brown, as we mentioned. He was a newspaperman, columnist, labor organizer, and a serious gambler. He actually won his house from gambling, but then lost it again several years later.
That makes sense for a gambler.
Mark Connolly was a playwright and the ultimate New York society party guest because he was so charming and witty. And he actually won the Pulitzer Prize for drama in 1930 after writing The Green Pastures, which retold Old Testament stories as family stories handed down by field hands in the Old South. And the play broke racial barriers on Broadway and featured the first large all-black musical cast.
Oh, wow.
And he actually apparently skated on that Pulitzer Prize for like the rest of his life. He basically didn't do anything else.
He's like, but
I'm famous now.
Like, I don't need to do anything ever. So apparently, we all know these people like to drink, but they also were all alcoholics during Prohibition. So something doesn't make sense, or it makes total sense. They probably served alcohol under the table.
Yeah, and I think everybody brought their hip flasks.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Edna Ferber was the most commercially successful of the group and the most prodigious writer. She wrote novels, plays, short stories, and she also won a Pulitzer Prize for fiction. And she claims that she only attended the Round Table about 4 times a year because she was too busy working. But interesting for her, she lived in a lot of New York's residential hotels throughout her life. So she lived at the Hotel Belclair, the Hotel Majestic, the Prasada, and the Barbizon Hotel.
Oh, wow. She was busy working. What does that say about the rest of them?
I know.
And then, of course, the most famous, or at least in my opinion.
Yeah, my opinion too.
Was Dorothy Parker. She was a famous writer. She actually lived at the Algonquin on and off, and she was incredibly sharp and incredibly witty, and she definitely had a zinger to her. I don't know if it's a zinger or zing. Every time she spoke, I mean, one of her quotes is, "I wake up and I brush my teeth and I sharpen my tongue." But just like any brilliant writer, she suffered a lot from mental illness.
Yes.
She didn't have the easiest life. She worked for Vanity Fair, and she got fired because she, I guess, pissed someone off with her review. But her 2 friends resigned with her.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was Sherwood and Benchley.
Yes.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. She had a good support system.
Yeah. And Benchley was like the first managing editor of Vanity Fair. So it's not like he was resigning from just some, piddly little beat job. Like, he was the managing editor. And working at Vanity Fair, it didn't pay very much, but it brought you a lot of esteem and street cred in the writing world.
It still does.
Yeah, of course. And so, but even all the way back then, so they were really giving up a lot in solidarity with her.
But they kind of knew they can get other jobs. I'm not sure Dorothy Parker bounced back from that. I think she did. I think she wrote some things, and I know she married an actor and a playwright, and she moved to Hollywood, and she got divorced, and she has a lot of things going on. But she struggled. She also developed an alcohol addiction, and she's attempted suicide a few times. But I think it hit her more than the other guys.
Well, along with one of them, I can't remember if it was Benchley or the other, but she and he actually rented a room together because they decided to be freelance writers. And so they rented like an office space together, but they basically took up a bunch of subscriptions to like weird magazines like Undertaker magazines and would like spend the morning reading funny articles to each other and then go have lunch at the Algonquin for the round table. And so they like weren't getting enough work done to make any money because they were just hanging out all day. So the guy finally was too broke and went and got like an actual job at another newspaper. And Dorothy was like, fine, I'll just stay here by myself. But she was a very social person and she got lonely. So allegedly she was like, I know how to get people in here. And she just wrote the word men on the door to her space that she had rented to make it look like a men's restroom or something.
Oh my
God.
God.
So that people would just wander in.
Wow. Clever. She was clever. That's hilarious. Yeah, it sounds okay. So it does sound like the round table was like just a bunch of people like shooting the shit and not actually doing any work. And but I will say I have an example of what I think it was, and I think more people need to do this, but it kind of, they came together, they made each other laugh, they were gossiping, they were exchanging witticisms, puns, all that stuff. But really they were sharpening their skills, like their humor and their, I guess, conversational skills, what have you.
And
but
the quick thinking.
The quick thinking, it was almost like a improv group, but with actual talented and charming people. Because I think that's what it was. It was an improv group. They came together. They almost like gave each other prompts, articles, theater, whatever. And they're like, okay, who can be the most insane with this?
Yeah.
And they just went for it. But what I find that so interesting about the vicious circle is that here's a group of people that just, it happened naturally. It was organic. You had smart people. They came together. They made each other laugh. They challenged each other. You couldn't have thin skin. You needed to have thick skin to be in the circle because you were going to get destroyed. But people saw this community, and it built friendships and community, and people came and wanted to watch them. Isn't that fascinating? Like, this is the middle of New York City. You can do a lot of other things, but people wanted to come and watch a bunch of writers talk. I think we all still have this curiosity, and I think that we like funny people and talented people, and that's why. But I just think that it was really this unique moment in time that didn't last very long, but it had such an impression on everyone. And I wish... I don't think I'm smart enough to be a part of the group. Like, I would never be able to, because I would also be scared shitless to be there, because I'd be like, oh my God, they're going to kill me. But to observe that, so good. Like, and a lot of celebrities and a lot of people feel the same. I think I read a quote by JFK. He said, there was a couple things I wanted to be when I grew up, and one of them was to be a part of the Algonquin Round Table.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, okay. And he was definitely not. I can't imagine them sitting there listening to him.
He did not have what it takes.
Like, I never knew how he sounded until I watched a clip as an adult, and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, he's a lot more attractive with his mouth shut.
Yeah.
Like all men.
Yeah. I mean... Wow.
I'm a member of the Round Table!
Yay! What else can you say that's really mean? We were talking about how maybe we wouldn't qualify because we're not that witty, but we are that mean.
We've got the vicious part.
Yeah.
After Frank Case dies in 1946, the next owners are Ben and Mary Botany. In 1924, Ben and Mary honeymooned at the Algonquin and fell in love with the hotel. And Ben promised his new bride that he would buy it for her one day. So after Case passed away and the hotel was put up for sale, Ben purchased the hotel. But actually, this is not quite all of the story, because he actually wanted to buy a sports team, but the sports team that he wanted to buy was bought by Bing Crosby instead. And so then he was like, all right, I'll buy you the Algonquin.
Wow. The life of the rich. Listen, honey, I can't get you the team. You know what I could get you? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to mention one other thing, that a lot of people spent their honeymoons here, but someone very famous, Douglas Fairbanks and Mary Pickford, the people from who made Hollywood, they honeymooned there, and I think in 1922. And I believe, I don't know if it was the same time they were promoting the movie Robin Hood, but for press purposes, they shot arrows off the roof of the hotel.
Oh.
And I just want to say that would be a lawsuit today.
Just waiting to happen.
Like, I just love that they did that and didn't think anything of it. They're like, oh, we got a great idea. New York City, the most dense place in America. We're going to just drop things from the roof.
Not even drop. Shoot them with force.
I don't know if they would be like, they're aiming well, but I don't know if they were soft. Were they like special?
Even if they were like tipped with rubber, that's still going to hurt.
It's going to hurt. You drop anything from a building, it's going to come down and hurt. I bet you, I want to read the newspaper the day after that happens.
A mysterious death reported on 44th Street. What the heck? Because it's a 12-story building. Like, that's nothing to sneeze. It's not a skyscraper, but it's nothing to sneeze at.
If you go on top of a car in New York and throw a bunch of arrows at people, it's not going to end well. I'm shocked that they thought that was a good idea. Okay, so we should also mention that between the time that the land was bought by the Puritan Company, a family did own it, and then Case ran it, or a family partially owned it.
Yeah, we talked about the Fosters. No, it was the Fosters.
Smiths.
It was the people. Who are the Smiths?
You're not.
Who the fuck are the Smiths?
So the Puritan Company buys it, builds it, sells it to this family, the Smiths. Foster rents it, leases it, and then eventually Case takes over. Case buys it from the Smiths family for $1 million in 1927. Fast forward after Case passes away and the Bodney family comes and buys it. They also buy it for $1 million because it was in such bad shape after the war and there was a lot of damage to the property. Am I correct?
Yeah, not damage from the war, just in case anybody was wondering. No,
it was
since there was no war here. But yeah, it was just run down.
It was just run down. I guess like the war, I don't know how that had anything to do with it. Maybe the economy, but it was super run down. Yeah, there was like water damage and like a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, so they had to do. So he paid $1 million to buy it, and then came up with $300,000 extra dollars to renovate it, and what Bodney did that was really, I think, respectful is he knew a lot of the long-term tenants and repeat guests didn't want anything to change about the Algonquin. So instead of, trying to put his own spin on it or replacing a bunch of stuff and making it, updating it to look fresh and modern, he basically freshened everything up, but painted it the exact same colors, put down the same floors, the same walls, everything. And he did everything at night, like to try to make it as unintrusive as possible. And also so that people wouldn't know that it was happening. So it got this complete renovation and then looked exactly the same. Just nice.
Yeah, kind of like the chateau, as you mentioned. It's changed a lot, though, over the years. There's been a lot of renovations, a lot of ownership. Oh, also, their staff has been unionized since 1939. I thought that was interesting. Yeah.
Take that, Chateau Marmont.
Yeah.
So not a lot happens of note during the next couple of decades. Lots of, stars continue to stay there. Like we mentioned, Marilyn Monroe, Liz Taylor, lots of musicians. So it continues to be a place that the elite celebrities love to go. But as it becomes more expensive, it's not really accessible to the poorer artists as time goes by. And so they actually start marketing in Europe quite a bit, and the Algonquin becomes a really big destination for European travelers to New York. And then it seems like the 70s didn't hit the Algonquin as hard as it hit the Plaza because
I'm surprised about that.
me too, I really am. They had pretty cheap room rates, like it was less than $80 a night, but they, I guess, had a lot of repeat guests, and so they didn't have the capacity problem that the Plaza had, and all the hotels in the country were having. It
Yeah,
seemed.
maybe it's just like they had dedicated guests that, as
Yeah.
you said. And the staff really got to know those guests and they remembered everything they needed.
Yes,
think
they had like cue cards that they wrote everybody's preferences down on. They had over 5,000 guest cards with
Yeah.
preferences.
That's good customer service.
Yes.
An interesting fact I just read that apparently after September 11th, their like people, the visitors, it went really down, and there was someone who wanted to buy it but canceled after the attacks because there wasn't enough business. That's really sad.
Yeah. In 1981, the Oak Room opened as a cabaret, which actually launched the careers of quite a few jazz artists like Harry Connick Jr., Diana Krall, Michael Feinstein, Peter Cincotti, and Andrea Marcovici.
There's a lot, like this place has a lot of jazz.
Yeah.
You can still go and hear some jazz. Also, there's a famous painting, like it's kind of a mural painting of the round table that is hanging up in the lobby.
Oh, nice.
And you can go and sit and you can listen to jazz and look at the painting. And it's just like the details of everything is so perfect. It has to do with its history. They have little book sculptures on the wall. They have a typewriter on the shelves where their famous cat Hamlet goes, and they made it cat friendly in the new renovation. You can just like sit, have tea. I think there's a framed illustration from the New Yorker of the round table. It's just everything's in the details. The cocktails, all literary. The whole menu in that video I made, you can like look at it and it looks like a leather bound book. And then there's the Dorothy Parker, and then I think they have Hamlet in there somewhere. It's just really cute. They really keep in touch with where their roots are from.
Yeah. That's so great. It is a New York City landmark. It was designated such in 1987. This is interesting, though. It's not protected by the Landmarks Preservation Commission, so neither the interior nor exterior are protected from renovation or demolition. But it is a
Really?
landmark. Yeah,
That's very interesting.
little
Well, that's
weird.
good for them because less
Yeah.
red tape. I will say if you look at how it used to look and how it looks now, because they've gone through so many renovations, and I think the last one they did was in 2022. It's now like white and bright, same basic structure as it always was. But you look at the older pictures and it's like dark wood and oak and all that stuff. It's a very different vibe. I'm not sure if I like the white and bright 100%. It's beautiful, but
like, oh, another white bright hotel.
Yeah,
How
I mean,
interesting.
it's not cold. But it's definitely, when I looked at the old pictures, it kind of gave that vintage, you went back in time vibe. Who knows? Maybe they'll change it. But the white brightens it. It does.
Yeah.
It's not so dark. So, man, I'm torn. But
And then also in 1987, the hotel changed hands again when the Martinis sold it to the Aoki Corporation of Tokyo for $29 million. So quite the profit there. But they did continue living there. They remained in their 10th floor apartment and each day sat in their favorite wingback chairs in the lobby.
Oh,
That's sweet. Ben died in 1991 at 88 and Mary in 2003 at 93.
oh wow, they were old.
Yeah. And then the management company, Caesar Park International, spent more than $22 million upgrading the hotel 3 floors at a time over the course of 5 years. They replaced the 85-year-old elevators and all the electrical systems.
Oh my God.
That's quite a
Wait.
renovation. Yeah. Oh, I guess this was from like 91 to 96 because in 1997, Aoki sold the hotel, a partnership between the Olympus Real Estate Corporation of Dallas and Camberley Hotels of Atlanta paid close to $33 million for the place, and they also upgraded the hotel.
That's not bad for a hotel. I mean, if you think about how much the plaza has been,
Yeah.
$100 million is like nothing.
Yeah. They actually had a Lisbon-born interior designer named Alexandra Champalimode reimagine the lobby and make it appear more like it had in the past. So this was 97. So it keeps going back and forth. So you're right. Maybe it's white and bright now, but maybe it will go back.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what's in style.
Yeah.
Like what's the trend. But yeah, that the pictures I was looking at were from the 90s. They weren't like from a long, long time ago. I mean, there's some also, but it was the most recent one before the most recent renovation.
Yeah.
So in 2002, the hotel celebrated its centennial, which makes sense, 1902 to 2002.
Oh, yeah.
With another change of ownership. How many owners? This hotel?
Yeah, it like boom, boom, boom.
So the owners were a Denver-based company called Miller Global Properties, and they bought the hotel for $43 million. Still a deal.
Yeah.
According to me. They wanted to mark the occasion of this, I guess, purchase with a ceremony. They had a cake cutting ceremony in the Round Table room, formerly the Rose Room, and unveiled a beautiful painting of the Brooklyn artist Natalie Ascensios. And I think that's the painting I was talking about.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So they did another renovation, and they actually closed the hotel for a whole month to do this renovation.
Oh, wow. Bodney would not approve.
Yeah. They did it to like basically come into the 21st century. They added also flat screen TVs and wireless internet and probably more tech things. But, you know, they needed to keep up with the times.
Yeah, that's necessary.
Yeah.
It was the first time the hotel was closed in 100 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I missed that part.
Wow.
That's crazy. I guess business was good.
Yeah.
So it's 2004. And this is the year of a very special thing. Of the $10,000 martini.
Yeah, so the general manager at the time, Anthony Melchiori, actually came up with this idea. He was really big on coming up with something to bring people in, and he wanted to embrace the hotel's history, but also not let the business just coast on its reputation. So they launched this publicity stunt, basically, of the $10,000 martini. So someone actually buys this $10,000 martini, but they make it into a big engagement. So a gentleman pops the question to his girlfriend with this $10,000 martini, and at the bottom of the glass is a diamond engagement ring.
Is the ring included? Like they have to buy the ring separately, or is it included in the $10,000?
I think the ring is what makes the martini $10,000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. I'm now thinking, but what is in this martini? What's the ingredients?
I know. I want to
It's just a
know
regular
what kind of
martini?
vodka they're using, or is it a gin martini? Like,
Is it
Like,
an
what do we have in
espresso
here?
martini? I think there's a picture of it online, and we can find out. But so you're not buying a martini. You're purchasing an experience for your girlfriend. And actually,
Yes.
engagement ring, engagement party, $10,000 is not bad.
yeah, it says
In New York.
when all was said and done, the proposal cost almost $13,000 and made international news.
Okay. Yeah, that is the gimmick heard
Yeah.
around the world. Like a $10,000 martini. No, it's a party.
Exactly. So the hotel gets sold again in 2005, this time for 74 million. So
It's going up.
Going up every time to HEI Hotels and Resorts.
And in 2008, it goes through another renovation.
Man.
And this one for $4.5 million they spent. They installed new furnishings and amenities and suites and guest rooms. They changed the lobby. They made it include recessed lighting. Am I saying this right? Recessed lighting, pendant lights, and new furniture. Really? 4.5 for new furniture? I mean, no, I know it went on the suites, but I feel like you didn't need to add that in.
That's still
like,
a lot.
Not only did we fix, but we got new couches. Because the Algonquin is such a pet-friendly hotel, like many hotels are, but because they have their own cat and everything, they host fundraisers for animals, and they host something called they have a fundraiser with a feline fashion show featuring the hotel's cat. And this started in the 1930s.
Oh my God.
And it has raised money for things like the Mayor's Alliance for New York City Animals and North Shore Animal League, and I guess other things like that. And they also have a drink called the Martinis for sale. It's made with Grey Goose vodka, lychee juice, coconut, white cream, de cacao, and other stuff, whatever.
It's not just tuna juice poured into
I was
a
going to
martini
say.
glass. Okay, but I need 90 years worth of cat fashion show.
I do
stat.
too. Yeah, this is adorable. Also, when their cat died, there's a lot with the cat, by the way, we're missing out on. When one of the cats died in 1982, his obituary appeared in Variety magazine.
Oh.
Their cat in 2006 was Cat of the Year at the Westchester Cat Show.
Whoa.
Also, all cats have little electrical geofence collars so they don't run away.
Oh, good.
Or like end up. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah you got to do that. But it says here that the collar prevents it not just leaving the hotel, but leaving the lobby because the health department doesn't let animals into dining areas.
Oh.
So that's a loophole.
Wait, so I guess New York can't have any cat cafes then if cats aren't allowed in dining areas.
You make a good point. I think they are. I think maybe you can't serve food. Maybe you can only serve drinks or something.
Oh, maybe so.
I mean, yeah, I get it. I don't know what the worst thing can happen. Honestly, having a cat hair in your food is not dangerous. It's like you should still be worried about how the food is made. Yeah, like I'd rather the cat hair than other
salmonella
things. Yeah.
is way more likely to happen to you than anything from the cat.
Yeah. Also, people have gifted the cats things like paintings of the cats. Visitors have given them.
That's so sweet.
They're really into cat. I love this. It all started with a cat roaming in and then just like comforting people. And I guess Frank Case was like, how can you kick out a cat? Most places would kick out the cat. And this guy, again, ahead of his time, anytime there's a historic hotel, there is this one guy or a few guys that are like, you know what, we're going to do things differently. We're going to see the beauty and the strange and the weird. We're going to be inventive. We're going to be open. And it always works out in their favor. Yeah. That's a lesson we have to learn. Don't kick out stray cats.
Yeah, if the universe decided that cat was meant for your hotel, then you got to accept the cat, and now your hotel has cats. So we're going to end with some fun quotes from the Round Table, aka the Vicious Circle, from Alexander Woolcott. All the things I really like to do are either immoral, illegal, or fattening. Words to live by.
Yeah. Haywood Brown. Sports do not build character. They reveal it.
Ooh, so true. Dorothy Parker. If you want to know what God thinks of money, just look at the people he gave it to.
I have to agree with that, but it's kind of mixed with me.
Sick bird.
Yeah. Franklin Pierce Adams. Middle age occurs when you are too young to take up golf and too old to rush up to the net.
Robert E. Sherwood. Nobody expects him to be normal. He's a bishop.
I feel like our generation does not get these jokes. Robert Benchley. Behind every argument is someone's ignorance. That is so true. Yeah.
So true. George S. Kaufman. Epitaph for a dead waiter. God finally caught his eye.
I don't get that one.
What?
You see, hit or misses.
Yeah.
Dorothy Parker. That woman's
because he's a waiter and you're always trying to like make eye contact with your waiter to get him to come over.
Oh,
So God finally caught the waiter's eye.
That is so like specific.
It's so very niche.
Yeah. Dorothy Parker. That woman speaks 18 languages and she can't say no in any of them.
Okay, here is a poem, I guess, from Dorothy Parker.
This one's kind of sad.
Oh, because she tried to commit suicide multiple times. Once, actually, at the Algonquin. She took some pills while she was staying at the Algonquin.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I didn't go into too many the details of all her suicides, but that doesn't shock me.
Okay, it goes. Razors pain you, rivers are damp, acid stains you, and drugs cause cramp. Guns aren't lawful, nooses give, gas smells awful, you might as well live. Damn.
If that isn't the most optimistic poem she ever wrote, really. Another quote from Robert Benchley. There are two kinds of people in the world. Those who think there are two kinds of people in the world and those who don't.
Oh my God.
Oh, the next are
these all Robert Sherwood?
No, actually.
Or these no
these
attribution?
are all Dorothy Parker and Robert Sherwood just is in the middle of them. So sorry. Women and elephants never forget.
I like to have a martini, 2 at the very most. After 3, I'm under the table. After 4, I'm under my host.
That's
After 4, I'm unconscious.
Yeah.
I can't handle too many martinis. I'd rather have a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy.
I bet you that was from one of the games.
That word game. I've got a sentence.
This is one of my favorite. I bet you this is also one of the games. You can lead a horticulture, but you can't make her think.
Ducking for apples. Change one letter and it's the story of my life.
She was good. This is not a novel to be tossed aside lightly. It should be thrown with great force.
All right, a quote from Robert Sherwood in one of his reviews. He was reviewing the cowboy hero Tom Mix. They say he rides as if he's part of the horse, but they don't say which part.
Oh, ba-dum-bum. That was good. And we're going to end it off with one of my favorite quotes from Dorothy Parker, which I think we both can relate to, which is, I don't know much about being a millionaire, but I'll bet I'd be darling at it.
Thanks for listening to Hotel History. You can follow us on most social media platforms, Patreon, and Substack by searching for Hotel History or Hotel History Podcast. If you like what you hear, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify so we can reach more listeners.